So today I'm going to talk about jobs. To be more specific, I'm going to be talking about why most of the people who are watching this video now, within the next 10 years, will be unemployed. Think that won't happen? Well, watch on. Well, we're all familiar with this sort of picture, and this is how things used to be at Amazon. And this is one of Amazon's many warehouses, and as you can see, there's lots of people packing things up. There's always lots of people pushing trolleys around with products going from the stacks to the packing department, but no longer. This is what you have now. There's one person supervising a whole huge warehouse, and that warehouse is full of robots. Yes, this is what's going to happen to your job. Now you may think your job can't be robotized. Well, let's have a look. Now, for an awful long time in certain industries where it's a big buck item and lots are being made, and a typical example is the auto industry, automation has been the thing. And here you see a fully automated line putting together cars. Now obviously in the old days there'd be hundreds of people working there, and you'd see an awful lot of people in this picture, and the only person you can see in this modern factory, well, I can see two. I can see a man squatting down behind a pillar on the right hand side who looks to be adjusting something, and there's a man standing around doing nothing on the left hand side. And the machines are all working feverishly to build cars. Now, what is a high ticket item at the moment when it comes to technology will soon be very affordable even for small factories. Now, looking at other things, 3D printing for example. 3D printing is coming on by leaps and bounds. Now, these are items that were made on a homemade 3D printer. These tiny little gears were made on a homemade machine. Now, industrial machines currently can do much better than this. And just how tiny can they go? That's one question. And that's quite fascinating, but what's more critical is how big can they go? And over in China, they've started using 3D printers on a big scale to print houses. And these are houses, little tiny houses, and they're very primitive obviously because it's the early days yet. They've only been doing this for about a year. And these cheap houses are designed for workers, and they might very well be temporary houses. But you can see what is happening here. Building sites, you're a builder. For how long are you going to have a trade once the robots move in? Even in the fast food industry, things are now being roboticized. And here is a fast food robot. And there's others. And in the States you have a whole chain just starting off using robotic burger flippers, and the only people in the place are behind the counter, and that's going to change soon. It already has changed in Japan. And for a long time the stock market has had automated trading systems that humans don't really have much, if any, input into. And some of these trading systems do millions of trades in a second. So no human would ever be able to cope with it anyway. And this is where the world is going. Now you may think, oh, I've got a very high-end job, I'm a doctor. Well, let's have a look at doctors. And here is the latest robot surgeon. Now, as you can see, at the moment it still requires a nurse. They haven't roboticised the nurse's function. It still requires occasional input from an actual human surgeon, and there's still a man playing around with the computer game. But that's all set to change, and I'll show you why in a minute. And here is a diagnostic doctor that's being used in the States at the moment. And the way this works is there's one single doctor. He can look after lots of different patients in several different hospitals, and this is a telepresence rig. This means that the doctor sits in his office and this robot goes around, shows him the patient, the nurse does whatever tests are necessary with a stethoscope that's connected to the machine so he can hear it, and the doctor makes the diagnosis, does the prescription, all the rest of it, and this way one doctor sitting in his office can look after 100-200 patients in hospitals scattered around the country. So how many doctors will we need? Not many. So, as I was saying, things are changing. Now, this actually comes from Ray Kurzweil, and if you can possibly get hold of some of his books, they're a very good read, and they're very informative. And this particular graph shows you the growth in computing power. Now, calculations per second. One human brain can manage 10 to the 15th calculations per second. So when will computers reach the level of being able to simulate a human brain? Well, at the moment we're just around about at an insect brain level, and this is very true, and I'll show you some of that in a minute. But here we are at the one human brain level. Dropping down, you're looking around about 2025. And it's amazing, there was actually an AI conference fairly recently, and the question was asked, when do you think AI will approach the level of a human brain? And nearly everyone at that conference said 2025 to 2030. Now, as soon as you've got a human brain equivalent AI, then all the people in this picture disappear. Now you think about that. As soon as you've got a human equivalent AI, all the people in this picture, all two of them, disappear. And you have a fully automated factory. In fact, can you think of a job anywhere which cannot be roboticised? Now, at one time, people used to say, oh, driving. Well, for years now, and I do mean years, because there's no traffic around them, we've actually had roboticised tractors. Goodbye tractor driver. And here's 2 robot tractors in Germany. And the latest thing is driverless cars. And here's a small electric model, but there's Google cars around that are petrol. They're working on also automated delivery vans. So you can see there's a whole class of jobs going now that are going to disappear. And jobs are going to be disappearing everywhere. You think of an industry, you think of an industry sector, there won't be any jobs. And this is the challenge for the human race in the future. What are we going to do? what are we going to do? Now, let's look at where things are just at the moment. And you're going to enjoy this. And here's Big Dog. I mean, this is an insect brain. This has been around for a little while. This will follow a soldier around, it will carry all his kit for him. And it looks a bit comical. In fact, the Russians at one point took the mick out of it, like this. Pretty much the same. Well, of course you will remember that IBM entered a computer in the American show Jeopardy. And here is IBM's Watson computer winning that show, beating the two best human contestants. Now this should give you pause for thought. We're already very near this human level intellect. And the Turing test, and that is the test where some human beings talk remotely to a computer and also to other human beings and try to decide which is the computer. The Turing test is now a bit of a red herring. People have realised that in actual fact we're likely to exceed human intelligence levels before we get a computer that passes the Turing test. Why is that? Because it's obvious that even a relatively dumb computer like this Watson computer is much smarter than the humans around it. And to pass the Turing test, the computer would have to be clever enough to hide that. And people don't want dumb computers, they want smart computers. So there's no money really being put into passing the Turing test. Now everything that I've talked about so far is out in the public domain. You can only imagine, given that the military in general are around about 20 years ahead, you can only imagine what they've really got. But anyway, I think I've succeeded in my original goal. And my original goal was, if you remember, to show you how you would not have a job within the next 15 years. If you can think of something that cannot be automated within the next 15 years, or people would not automate within the next 15 years, then please leave it as a comment to this video. I would be interested because, to be honest, I can't think of anything. Anyway, I hope you've found this educational, and please subscribe and please share this video. And I'm going to be producing a follow-up to this video, which I think you'll find interesting. And I'm going to kind of call it something like why the elites want to get rid of us, because they don't need us anymore. Anyway, thanks very much. Bye.